Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Experts. I'm your host, Alexis Thames, and here with me today, I have Lee Garland of the Garland Group and EXP Realty. We're going to be asking some questions from the Ask the Experts page on WLBT.com. And as always, we encourage you to ask questions as we go along, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. So let's get started, Lee. How's it going today?
It's going great today. I'm glad to be here today, and looking forward to our show. I think this is our first show together, Alexis. So I'm looking forward to that.
Me as well, and also, I don't know a lot I'm sorry, realty and home buying, so I think this will be very interesting. I was very excited to speak with you today. So yes, let's get started. My first question is, with the new season, we're in a new season, and at the end of the year, so what is the market like for home buyers right now? And has it changed any much since the last time we spoke with you?
So the real estate market, as you've seen all over the media, the real estate market did the total opposite of what we expected from March a year ago when COVID set in. We thought the market was just going to shut down, and it just exploded. And it's been a phenomenal market. We are seeing some actual slowdown in the market now. It's been a very much what we call a seller's market, where it's to the seller's advantage, and buyers have been paying premium prices, many times over list price for properties. Mm-hmm. And properties have been selling the day they go on the market, having multiple offers on them. Well, the moratorium on evictions has been lifted, and so there are more properties that are starting to come onto the market. Mm-hmm. Interest rates have remained steady. They're still at really low rates, so it's a good time to buy for buyers. But we are starting to see a little bit of a slowdown in the market. But don't mistake that slowdown as a sign of weakness, because it is not. Homes are still selling very fast. There is a very high demand for homes. And I just got back from Dallas, Texas a week ago. I was at a conference, and what was discovered at that conference was that every expert in the industry is expecting the market to remain strong for the next 2 to 5 years. There are some variances in what the projection is, but the next 2 to 5 years, every expert seems to think that will be strong for the next couple of years. We will have more inventory. Foreclosures will start to happen, but there's enough demand to actually support a healthy real estate market.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So it's definitely a good time to buy a house if you're going to do so.
It's a great time. It's a good time to buy, a great time to sell, and especially buying because of the interest rates. Mm-hmm. We do expect interest rates to go up. And to put that into perspective, if you were buying a $200,000 home where rates at 3% today, the payment on a $200,000 home at 3% would be the exact same payment. Mm-hmm. On a $155,000 home at 5%. So it is the time to be buying because the rates are so low. Mm-hmm. And you get to buy a lot more house for a lot less money in today's market.
Yes. Well, if you are looking to buy a house, you can contact Lee at 601-983-1130 or at leewillbuyit.com. All right, so our next question is going to be, is there a reason a home's assessed value can differ from its market value?
So I get this question a lot, and it doesn't really make sense to the general public why the assessed value, if you go to the public record site or the tax record site, the assessed value is always lower than the home's actual market value. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is actually a good thing. The assessed value is the value that the tax assessor's office assigns to your property. That is not an appraised value. It is not a market value. It is the value that they assess the taxes against. And so, which is a good thing, because if they assess the taxes against true market value, we'd pay more taxes. So don't be fooled that, hey, I saw the assessed value on the home was $150,000, but they're asking $180,000 on the market. That doesn't mean that the home is overpriced. What it means is that it's just a formula, just an equation that the tax assessor's department uses in order to tax your home.
And should someone sell their current property before buying a new one?
So that's a personal choice. I will tell you that most sellers in today's market are not willing to take contingencies or conditions upon somebody else's home selling. So if you were a buyer, if you were buyer A and you had a home to sell, and buyer B did not have a home to sell, as a condition upon the sale, the seller would be most likely interested in taking buyer B's offer because they don't have to sell a home. So to make a contract or an offer contingent upon the sale of your existing home is going to affect your ability to negotiate the best deal, and possibly even your ability to buy that next home. So from that perspective, it would be better not to sell your home prior to buying. Now, on the flip side of it, if you have to sell before you buy to meet the financing qualifications, I am seeing people actually sell their home, going into an apartment setting or temporary housing until they can find their next home. When the market is hot like it is, those contingencies or conditions upon a home selling are not looked upon very favorably by sellers. So I would tell you that to negotiate the best deal, you would need to go ahead and get your home sold and or not make that as a condition. Now, from a buyer's perspective, if you own two homes and you have mortgages on both, you get to pay two payments, which I've been there, done that. It's a scary time. You don't want to, it's no fun to make two house payments.
I can only imagine.
So make sure you can afford it if you do that.
Yeah. And for the people who are looking into purchasing a home, how many houses should they look at before they actually purchase one?
They should look until they find the right home. As that's the most appropriate answer. I have people ask me that, say, well, how many houses should I look at? Well, nationally, the average person looks at about 11 houses before they make a decision on the right one. Now, I've had in the past, I've had people that saw the first house they looked at, they loved, and they're like, we're afraid to make an offer on it because we haven't seen all of the other choices. Well, if the house checks all of the boxes, if you love it, don't wait until you've seen everything else on the market, because chances are the house that you love today is the same house that somebody else loved yesterday. And if you wait a day, you're going to be without that house.
Yes, and let's say someone is looking at a house, but they may want to back out of it. How would they go about that?
So once you go under contract, let's say you put an offer on the house and you're under contract, you can't just wake up and change your mind. That would be considered a breach of contract. And in the state of Mississippi, there's a thing called specific performance, meaning that the seller could sue you and force you to buy the house if you just woke up and said, "Oh, I changed my mind today." Ironically, if the seller did the same thing, woke up and changed their mind, said, "I'm not going to sell to you for whatever reason," you could actually sue the seller and force them to sell the house. But if, let's say, there's a material defect to the house that was not disclosed, once that material defect is discovered, the state of Mississippi has a statute that says that once it's discovered and disclosed, the buyer has a 3-day right of rescission to actually back out and change their mind without any loss of monies. So even if the house is an as-is house, if you discover something that was not disclosed, you have a 3-day right of rescission from that point if it's a material defect. And a good agent is going to protect their buyer, and or on the other side, their seller. A good agent's going to protect their client with the right contingencies or conditions so that they will have ways to terminate the contract if things do not check out the way they should.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely amazing to have a policy set in place just in case something like that happens. We have a question from our comments from Pam Kelly. She asked, if I purchase the new home, should I sell or rent my old home?
So I love the question, Pam, and I'm a big advocate of owning multiple pieces of real estate. I think real estate is one of the strongest, best investments you can make in the United States today. And if you want to build wealth, owning real estate is one surefire way to do that. So now here's the catch. Mm-hmm. You don't want to just own 1 or 2 rental properties, because if you own 1 or 2 rental properties, you don't have enough of what's called economy of scale. You don't have enough to protect you in case something happens, unless that property is totally paid for. If you have a mortgage on it and you're not making $250+ a month profit off of it, and the air conditioning goes out and you have to replace a $5,000 air conditioning unit, you would be in the hole for that year. So, but if you own multiple properties, that one unit is not going to have a drastic effect on your impact on your finances. Mm-hmm. So I really, if you can afford both, typically, let me put it, let's see if this makes sense. If you buy a $100,000 house, the note on that $100,000 house over a 30-year mortgage is going to be around $700 a month. Mm-hmm. Most $100,000 properties will rent between $1,000 and $1,500 a month. So if the payment is $700 and you can rent it for, let's just say $1,200, that's a $500 a month profit. That's a pretty good return. And somebody else is paying off your mortgage on that property. So I strongly encourage people to keep. I consider myself a property collector. Yeah. I don't normally, if I'm going to buy a property, I'm going to keep it for a long, long, long time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and if you're just coming in, we are speaking with Lee Garland of the Garland Group and eXp Realty. His number is 601-983-1130, or you can get in contact with him at leewillbuyit.com. Now, Lee, how does earnest money work?
So earnest money is also known as good faith money, meaning that I'm serious about buying your house. So I'm going to put some earnest money, some good faith money up to show you that I'm serious. That earnest money, unless it's designated otherwise, but traditionally it is put into a non-interest bearing escrow account with one of the brokers involved or an attorney. And that money is set aside and used toward your down payment or closing cost when you close on the house. That money is not used by the seller or anybody else. It is your money. It's your good faith money saying, I'm going to move forward. Now, what happens is if you violate the contract without cause, then that earnest money could be in jeopardy and delivered to the seller as damages for you not fulfilling your side of the contract. So there is not a written rule of how much earnest money should be put down on a property. A lot of, and I see this, and it's a mistake on a lot of agents' part and throughout the nation. A lot of agents will say, "Oh, just put $500 down or $1,000 down." That's the most common I see in Mississippi, $500 to $1,000. There is no rule that says you have to put that amount of money down. There's no rule that says you can't put more money down or less money down. Earnest money is a negotiated term between buyer and seller. The agents don't set that amount. It is whatever the buyer and seller agree to. Now, is 500 to 1,000 what we commonly see? Yes, but I've seen it as low. I've seen it. Earnest money could actually be something else altogether. It could be, you could put your car up, or your tennis shoe, or your cow, or whatever it is that you would put up as consideration as your good faith move toward buying a property. And I have actually I had a case one time where somebody put up $800,000 worth of earnest money. So I'm like, okay, why don't you just pay for the whole house? But earnest money is good faith money. It is not in jeopardy unless you do not fulfill your obligations under the contract.
Yeah, so you just said that story. Would it be best for someone to put a higher amount or lower? Which would be best for them to do if they're interested in doing this?
So if you're selling, a lot of times I explain things in story. If you were a seller and you had two buyers come to you, one buyer put up $100 earnest money, and another buyer put up $10,000 worth of earnest money. Which buyer would you believe to be the stronger, more serious buyer? The answer obviously is the one that put up $10,000.
Yeah.
So the more earnest money a buyer puts up, the more favorable the seller is going to look at their offer, and quite possibly even take a lower offer price because the buyer shows more strength by putting up more earnest money.
Yes. Okay. And we have another question. How do we protect ourselves from bad renters? One that doesn't like to pay rent or doesn't want to pay rent?
Oh, well, bad renters are those that do not want to pay rent. That happens. You have to screen your tenants. You need to do a credit check before you place that tenant. You need to do a background check. You need to verify their references, their income. So all you're doing is stacking the deck to your favor. You're wanting to verify as much as you can that that tenant's going to be a good tenant. Now, does that mean that even if everything checks out, that they may skip out and not pay? Yeah, they could. I've actually had people do that. And but you do everything you can to stack the deck in your favor. If the tenant is not paying, you can take them to court, sue them for what the rent they owe, and have them evicted from the property. Now, I understand that over the last year and a half with COVID, if a property was backed by an FHA loan, you could not evict that tenant if they were affected by COVID. Now, if the tenant was just not paying because they said, I don't want to pay, but they had the means and had no effect by COVID, they still could be evicted. The courts, however, have worked really slow over the past year and a half in evictions because everybody whether they have been affected or not, claims, it's very common for the claim to be, oh, well, I can't pay because of COVID. And the courts are not going to rule, most courts are not going to rule against that tenant on the off chance that they might have been affected. But that moratorium is over, and so their evictions are back in process. Not that evictions are a good thing. Please don't think that I'm saying that, but the landlord should have rights just like the tenant should.
Yes. And what does the process of using an escrow entail?
The process of using escrow in purchasing a property, escrow and earnest money in the state of Mississippi are one and the same. So the conversation we just had about earnest money is the same conversation about escrow. In Florida and in California and some other states, they go through an escrow period, but that does not apply here in Mississippi. So, so instead of confusing what happens in California with the escrow period, I think that we just need to stick with the first one, and that was what earnest money is about and how it works.
Yes. All right, I have some questions for you. Have you sold houses in the $400,000 price range?
You know, over the last 25 years, I've been responsible for over 10,000 sold transactions. Mm-hmm. That's a lot. Yeah. I have not actually tracked how many. The answer to the question is yes, I have sold houses, and I've sold many, many houses over the 400,000, even $1 million price range. How many have I sold? Honestly, I've never ever counted. I just know that I've done over 10,000 sold transactions. I've been responsible for over 10,000 sold transactions, and it's a lot.
Yeah. And how many sellers do you currently represent right now?
Currently right now we have, last I looked, and I did not look this morning because I've had my sales meeting today and some training. But we had 17, my direct team, myself, had 17 active properties. I know for a fact that we've got over 20 in the pipeline that are going to be coming on the market soon. And can't wait to get those on the market. They're waiting photos or updates or stuff like that. So they're coming on soon. But it's funny because for years and years, I've always carried a large amount of listings, a lot of seller inventory, and the market is just so fast today. As fast as we list them, mm-hmm. we sell them. And so it's hard to keep properties on the market today because it's a great market and there's a lot of demand.
Yes, and that sounds great. So if you are looking to buy a house, this is definitely the time to do so. What are your listing average days on the market right now?
Good question. My average days on the market are 8. We've got a medium days of market of 8 days, which is funny. I've always had a very low number of days on market, meaning from mm-hmm. the point the house was put on market till it went under contract. I can remember years ago where the average days on market for the entire real estate industry in the Jackson metro area, the average days was 60 to 65 days. And at that point, I was running 27 to 28 days on market for my averages. But here, since COVID and the opposite happened of thinking the market was going to die and the market exploded, most properties don't even last more than 2 weeks on the market. And so ours currently is 8 days.
Yeah. What do you think is different right now? You said that you guys thought that the market wasn't going to go as high as it is because of COVID, but it did the complete opposite. So why do you think that's so?
I think several things happened. One, interest rates stayed low and actually went lower. Mm-hmm. So I think that spurred a lot of the market. Two, the the government jumped in and put PPP money out and stimulus money out, and that helped a lot in giving people some discretionary funds. A lot of people, whether you like it or not, a lot of people took PPP money and stimulus money that really didn't necessarily need it, and they used it to better their current situation. Because I've had many people tell me they bought houses under those circumstances. The other reason is I think people realized all of a sudden that, hey, we're not going into the office anymore, and we're working remotely from home, and this place is just not big enough. And so matter of fact, Dave, our producer on this, I could see him in the background, and if I'm not mistaken, he is probably sitting in his living room right now. So a lot of people went home to work, and they realized, I need a bigger place. And, some of us realized we didn't like our family as much, and we needed more space. I love my family. That's not what I was saying. But I think that had a lot to do with it. And I think that spurred a lot of our market, for sure.
And what is your list to price ratio?
List price to sales price ratio. It's funny. There have been times over this past 18 months where it's been in excess of 100%, which is meaning we sold the house for more than it was listed for. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's running about 99% list price to sales price. So not every property sells, and this is a misconception by the public right now. Not every property sells for over list price today. So we're running about 99% as our sales ratios. The actual standard, the average across the Jackson multiple listing service is at 98 and some change. So we're just about that.
Okay, and do you have a recommendation network?
So we have a large group of what we call preferred or recommended vendors. Everything from people who do yards to maid services to moving services to attorneys to plumbers, electricians, foundation work, painters, gutter installers, handyman contractors, whatever you need. We have a significant list of vendors that we recommend, and we don't. You have to earn your way onto our list. Mm-hmm. Because I don't want to recommend somebody that's not going to do a good job. Now, I also will preference that to say that if you're on my list now and you do a bad job, you will come off my list as soon as it's reported. But we do have a recommendation list, a preferred vendor list that we supply to our clients and our future clients if someone needs that. So if you're looking to get on our preferred vendor list, let me know. If you need one of our vendors, reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction. I don't own any of those companies. Well, the only company on my preferred vendor list that I own, actually my wife owns, is we own a property and casualty insurance company. But all of the rest of them, I have no ownership in. I get no kickback from it. They just have done a good job for us.
Yes, and his contact information is 601-983-1130, or you can contact him at LeeWillBuyIt.com. That was our last question. Is there anything you would like to add?
If you're thinking about buying a home, if you're a first-time home buyer thinking about buying a home and would like some inside or some knowledge and a strategic plan on how to do that in today's market, I have a first-time home buyer webinar coming this Tuesday night. Today's Wednesday, right? Yeah, this coming Tuesday, I've got at 7:30 a home buyer webinar that for first-time home buyers, that webinar is at 7:30 Tuesday. To get to that webinar, you would go to zoomwithleeg.com. Zoomwithleeg.com. I'd love for people to tune in and come up and learn some strategies on how to effectively purchase their next home. Other than that, I've enjoyed being here with you today, Alexis. Looking forward to doing this again one day, I hope.
One day I enjoyed myself as well. Okay, and thank you so much for speaking with us today. If you have any questions about home buying or real estate, you can contact Lee Garland at 601-983-1130 or at leewillbuyit.com. Also, if you have any more questions, be sure to go to the Ask the Experts page on WLBT.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on another episode of Ask the Experts.